The latest ban list in Master Duel is completely shaking up the meta, so let's check out the top 5 best decks in Master Duel for the coming month. If you still need a beautiful playmat, you can go to zerodamagegaming.com and use the code Solemn for a discount. So first of all, we have Pearly. Now I will say Pearly is being hurt. This last ban list has taken Delicious and shot it down. It has taken Pretty and shot it down. Pearly already didn't like the ban list from before that. It is hurting, but it also still is a very strong deck overall. It can still go second very well. When it hits its board, it's still really good. It can try to play more of a discard engine, maybe even to make up for what it has been losing. And then just in terms of card quality, it still has a lot of the things that made it such a meta threat. So despite it being weakened, absolutely, I still want to give it that shot, and so I'm going to put it right here. Then the next deck I want to put here is Mathmic. Now Mathmic isn't really insanely unfair in any way, but it is a very solid deck that has one card combos, can link climb that way, can play True Disruption and hand traps depending on which extenders they're holding, and then they can also fit a shit ton of non-engine. And so for that reason, it just feels like one of those typical Cyberse decks that can adapt to the meta, that can also thrive when the overall format is relatively fair because so many other decks have been hit so much. And while you could say there's like other decks in this category, like you could say, oh, Marincess, you know, I think Mathmic is a fair bit stronger than those other types of decks. The final deck in this category is Mannadium. Now I know Mannadium is still missing a ton of cards, and that is definitely hurting. But again, a lot of decks have been getting hits, and we haven't really been getting like really powerful support for decks lately. Like we haven't seen a Diabell Star package. We haven't seen Rescue Ace getting their new line of support. We've seen all the top decks getting hit, and none of the next in line top decks getting their full support. So even though Mannadium is kind of like lagging behind a little bit in terms of what it could do, it still is pretty solid. In the land of the blind, you know, one-eyed is king or something like that. That's kind of how I see Mannadium right now. And with all of that out of the way, let's get into number 3. Now this is where we are starting to get our actual powerhouses. These are the decks that are actually still really solid because they weren't actually slaughtered by all of these ban lists. Number 3 is Labyrinth. Labyrinth can currently play in 2 ways, but I will say the furniture way is probably the best way. As you all know, you can either go with, you know, heavy trap variants, you can play floodgates and so forth, but all of these floodgates have been getting hit left and right. And so while you could play like more removal traps, you could even play like backjack and all of that stuff, pure furniture really seems to be the way right now. It has the almost infinite recursion, like generally no deck is going to be able to outgrind it. If you can cycle through all of their big welcomes, okay, well done, but almost no deck right now can actually do that. It also doesn't tend to die to max C. It doesn't tend to die to many hand traps. Of course, Ash really hurts. Bell hurts a lot, but not that many decks can actually fit Bell or even want to fit Bell. And so overall, Labyrinth is still just very well positioned. Again, a bunch of other decks have been getting hit, and it itself really hasn't. So Labyrinth is number 3. On number 2, we have Vanquish Soul. Again, this is a deck that in the TCG and OCG was never really that great. It was always more of a rogue or tier 2 style pick. It was never really top dog, but it was always just solid. However, again, everything around it has been getting hit, and it is one of the few decks that actually got its full line of support very quickly in the form of the fire guy. And so for that reason, it's really solid right now. Another interesting tidbit is that it can also play Bell in the main because it's an earth hand trap. And so when the number 1 deck, spoiler alert, doesn't really like Bell, and Labyrinth, the number 3 deck, doesn't really like Bell, and worst case in the mirror match, Bell can even negate one of the effects of the Link 1, Bell isn't that bad, and this deck is fine playing it, giving you the proper attribute. For that reason, Vanquish Soul is one of the decks in Master Duel right now. And then finally on number 1, and I honestly can't believe it because this deck was kind of on the down low for a little bit, but then gradually again other decks got nuked and this deck really didn't. It is Branded. Branded Despia got its support pretty recently. The last line really that we know about, and that last line was strong while it also still had a lot of its resources from previously. And so Branded Despia is just an insane deck still. You know, if Branded Fusion resolves, you're feeling really good. And because of Cartesia and Grand Guignol lines and Sanctifier and all of this good stuff right now, even when your Branded Fusion gets ashed, you can often still make an incredible board. And once you get the ball rolling, once you can send Albion to the graveyard to create more follow-up and so forth, this deck is basically unstoppable. Add to that that this deck also likes playing Bestials, which are good against the Mirror Match brand itself, but also solid against the Furniture of Labyrinth, and you've got yourself an incredible deck that magically actually went right back to tier 1, possibly the very best deck in Master Duel right now. So you've probably seen a bunch of beautiful playmats throughout the video. If you want to pick up any of these, you can go to zerodamagegaming.com and use the code SOLEM for a discount. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you soon. Ciao.